What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo.
Welcome to Couch in the Roo, presented by Pure Options Craft Cannabis. If you are heading into this weekend and thinking, man, I just need to chill, I want to watch some NBA playoffs, maybe some soccer, maybe some NFL draft, maybe I just want to binge watch my favorite show, but I want to be relaxed and chilled and whatever, Pure Options is here for you. Go to pureoptions.com. You can download the app, join the Pure Perks loyalty program. They've got locations in Lansing, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Detroit. They'll treat you right. If you have any questions about what you're looking for, what your vibe is, Pure Options is here for you. And our Friday afternoon show, presented by our friends at Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. You can go down to Firekeepers Casino and go to the Dacey's Taproom and Sportsbook. It's an unbelievable place to enjoy the Vegas experience right here in Michigan. So if you want to just go down and live bet a Tigers game or whatever it might be, the NBA playoffs, it's a really cool way to do it, to get that vibe without all the hassle of going all the way out to Vegas and sweating your ass off out there and paying huge upcharges. None of that stuff exists at Firekeepers. It's a sweat-free zone, other than maybe your parlay. You can also download the app, of course, bet the games we're betting, or better yet, maybe fade us and win a little bit of money. Jason, how you doing, brother?
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
Big night.
Fuego, gracias, señor. Vamos, Lions.
Vámonos, a ver, una, dos, tres.
Vamos, Lions.
What's up, man?
How you doing?
Happy Friday after the first round of the draft.
Yeah.
How was that? That was fun last night, wasn't it?
I watched a little of it.
Yeah, no.
It's just like,
I had it on the second TV, just watched. And then when the Lions picked, or
yeah, it's not
or when T wants to fake being a Bears fan, and she like needs to hear the sound on the Bears pick. And, I had to do that, but
it's we're in this weird stage where all of a sudden the Pistons got real relevant, and the Pistons are like, well, that's the main screen till that game's over.
Absolutely.
And then
the Tigers had an off night, or it would have been. I would have had the Tigers on as well.
And even the draft is it's interesting when the team you follow most is decent or really good, like the Lions are. You find the draft a lot less interesting because it's no longer the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? It's no longer the event, the hope. It's like, I mean, I still find.
But ever since they ruined it and moving it to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's never been the same for me personally. I know that we've had top 10, top 15 draft picks. I mean, if you want to consider that fun, it just breaks up the monotony of the off season. So
yeah, I was just binge watch. I was writing a column, but I was also binge watching Chicago Fire on Peacock. So like
Peacock?
How do you do that?
What do you mean?
Like, how do you write something and then?
Well, every once in a while, I'd have to stop it. Yeah, because I wasn't working well.
Right.
But what I'm saying is those two things were
Seems
also
distracting.
part of my night. So
you had the draft on somewhere? I mean, your wife allowed you to have two TVs.
She went to bed early, thankfully. And no, I'm just kidding. Not thankfully. I love her entirely. She came back from
sounded sincere.
Yeah, being away most of the week and was exhausted, and yeah, it was.
You should go to bed, probably. Yeah, the Pistons are on, and then there's a draft. I'm going to binge watch some shows. This is my time.
So you had two teams. So you had the draft and Chicago Fire going at the same time while writing a column.
Well, yeah, it was on mute because you're right. It's very hard. I get distracted otherwise.
Yeah,
I paused Chicago Fire to write the column. You can't do that.
Yeah,
it's
that kind of riveting television on in the corner.
Absolutely.
I mean, God, imagine if you had the Equalizer with Queen Latifah on. Holy shit, you'd never get anything done.
Unbelievable.
Oh,
yeah,
back-to-back episodes. Sorry, column's gonna have to wait.
We'll get in. We got I think what's gonna be a fun show through your Twitter questions and YouTube questions and emails and Blue Sky questions. All your questions coming in, and I do a lot of good MSU stuff. Some real angst there, and hope, a good mix, and some Lions, Tigers, Pistons.
I did see some Michigan State highlights on the draft last night. Derek Harmon.
Yeah.
Right? Does that count? I'm sitting there. There goes your column couch right there.
That's just piss people off. No, I was writing about a JUCO women's basketball player committing in Central Michigan. That's where my night was. And you know what? Frankly, more relevant because Cara Bartels is a heck of a player, and that was a kind of
you
fun
wrote
story.
like a whole column on it, or
No, I just wrote a story.
Oh,
but it was a good conversation. It was a fun story, a little uplift. It was good.
Oh,
somebody fulfilling their dream. Enjoyed it.
Maybe you should have led with that. Now I understand why you could have just done both, like all three at the same time.
It wasn't some it was.
I thought you were just pounding out a hard hitting column. Like, where's Mel Tucker?
When's the last time I wrote a hard hitting column?
Graham Couch on the move, trying to find Mel Tucker.
Not really.
Yeah, we don't have enough time for all of that.
All right, well, before we dig into these Groovy Donut Twitter questions, as we do at the end of every week, what we are betting presented by the Firekeepers Casino and Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Jason, are you betting anything this week?
You know what? It's the golf is the Zurich championship is in New Orleans. It's kind of a team event. I do have a little piece.
It's not in Zurich?
It's not in Zurich. It's in New Orleans, actually, and it's a team event. So I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm not going to do much. I have a little piece of Sepp Straka and Garnett as a team there. I don't know if they're going to make the cut, but it's just kind of one of those. There's not much value there, even after the second round today. Can you find something to have a little fun in? I know Rory and Shane Lowry are on the same team, and they were the favorite to win this thing. I don't think there's any value much on them. Baltimore, the Orioles, Tigers series this weekend. Maybe sprinkle a little bit on that. Casey Mize tonight. So, yeah, a couple of those things. No NBA playoffs really yet. And by the way, the Pistons don't. And I know we do this every year with the NBA playoff schedule, but it just irked me last night. Not only because they lost, but also to go, yeah, they don't play till Sunday. It's like, what? Why? What are we doing?
Yeah, it's all about.
I know it has
TV.
to last till June. It's about TV.
Yep.
We have how many of the TV networks covering the playoffs here? You're telling me, I don't understand.
Yeah, teams go home in between these games now. It's not even when you go on the road, like the New York Knicks, I would guess are back in New York. Like they will come back for the next game. That's how.
Yeah, but what about it?
We're dropping MFers now?
What about James Edwards? I mean, where's he?
Well, he's
going to hang?
Yeah, he should be in. Well, actually, it depends
I mean,
on
I know he knows people around here, but what if you were James and you didn't really know? I mean,
sometimes
Jesus Christ, got to hang out here the whole time.
Sometimes you got to go back and forth because you got to be where the availability is. At practices, you got to go back and forth too. I've got buddies who have done this in the NHL and the NBA. It's
there goes the athletic script.
Yeah,
prescription
going
up every month.
You get it at Walgreens at the pharmacy. Your athletic prescription.
Yeah.
All right, here's
sports news. Yeah.
I have been a little hesitant to give out too many Premier League picks of late because I've just not had the year that I've
just give out one.
Right,
let's do one.
And I have one, and this scares me how much I like this. It makes me nervous, but it's to the point that I think you should bet it. Newcastle, 10 a.m. Saturday at home against Ipswich, -2. It's up to -130, which means you got to pay a little juice, but -2 at home means if they win by 2 goals, you're just getting your money back. And I think there's a real chance this is 3 or 4 goals they win by. Newcastle has to win this game. They're in the fight for Champions League places. They're better than Ipswich. Their schedule's kind of tough relative to some of the other teams that they're competing with for those last Champions League spots. I also like this on a money line parlay. That's grown too, but like sticking it in with like everything for the rest of time at -565. Just parlay this with that. Anything you're doing, parlay this. Having said all this, having been this excited, when I'm usually this excited about it, a bet, I usually lose it. So I'm just warning people that. But I love Newcastle -2. I think the worst case scenario, they're going to win 2-0, 3-1, and you're going to get your money back. And best case scenario, you're going to make money. So that's where I'm at on that. I love Newcastle at home, 10 a.m. Saturday against Ipswich. So, Jason, you in?
Yeah, Ipswich, big Ipswich guy.
No, I said Newcastle. Not Ipswich. Don't take the wrong one.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I thought it was an over-under.
No, jeez. No.
Was it the Asian line? I'm sorry, I was getting prepared for the.
Some places the -2 might be the Asian line. You might have to look that up depending on your app.
Don't tell Jack Morris that.
Okay. Are you ready?
Of course.
All right. We are going to dig into these Groovy Donut Twitter questions.
All right. Eric Schultz. A week ago, you alluded to the fact that MSU is in on some high-level transfers and seem to think their chances of landing one is relatively good. Would you say your confidence in MSU getting one of these guys is higher, lower, or the same as it was a week ago? Include Darius Adams in this as well.
So I would say the confidence is about the same. It's been pretty quiet on that front. But the one thing I will say is I do have more faith in the intensity in which Izzo is working this, just on things I've heard. Like, I mean, this is not this is Izzo dying trying. There is no doubt that is happening. That Izzo is all in on trying to maximize his roster, get the players that they need in there, and is willing to play the game and spend the money. That's everything I've heard, and so I'll be curious to see where that leads, because some of these guys are in for the absolute biggest paycheck, and you never know where that's going to come. And some of these guys might not be good fits. Darius Adams, we'll get into that a little more in the next question. I think that is a guy there certainly have been in on and are hoping to land, and I think there's value in landing a young player like that. Now, how many years he'd be there, I don't know, but I think he's a guy who can contribute right away. I still think there's a possibility of another guy or a couple guys, couple names I've heard that I don't know where those things are. The thing about the transfer portal that's so different than recruiting in the high school level is how quickly things move and how old your information can get old fast. So, like, I can hear something a couple days ago, yesterday, on what they're working, and by the time I present it to you or even, sort of give you the tea leaves on it or whatever, something could have completely changed, and it could be incorrect. And so I just want to say that. I want to be careful of that. But I do think the effort is being made there. And so do I feel better or worse? I feel – it's not that I ever felt bad about the effort, but I feel like the effort has been confirmed several times over to me. And so just know that.
It's the American way, except America has gotten soft.
MZA next, as Darius Adams has now scheduled visits to Georgetown and Maryland. Do you think MSU will pivot off of him, as he may be looking purely for a cash-based commitment? And from Travis Maynard, is Darius now our primary focus, or do we still got our sights on another decent-sized fish at combo guard? At this point, would you rather get Adams than the tier of combo guards that are left in the portal? Isn't a proven secondary ball handler an absolute necessity? Or maybe that's Trey Fort.
Yeah, no, I think a proven secondary ball handler, or so you need a backup point guard. You need somebody who can run your offense when Jeremy Fears isn't in there, or if Jeremy Fears were to get injured and be out a week or be out the rest of the game or get in foul trouble. Like you absolutely need, I think, somebody else who can run the point, and I don't think it's on the roster. Now, having said that, maybe there is, an understanding with somebody who's on the roster that they've got this ability. Like if you had Jaden Akins for another year, for example, and you were in this spot, and Jaden Akins originally, going way back to when he was coming out of high school, was somebody who was thought to be a guy who could play point guard, right? And he wants to be maybe that would be like, okay, this year Jaden Akins is going to fill that role, and that's going to be something they work on all summer, and I think you'd be okay. I don't see that player right now. I don't see that in what I've seen from Trey Fort, and maybe that is Trey Fort. Maybe they've seen something. Maybe they feel good about it. I think you've got to add a backup point guard to some level. To the other questions, yeah, I don't know where. Like, I know MSU was in on Adams earlier this week and was very interested. From all I know, they're still interested in him and very interested. I don't know where they are in terms of feeling like we're in the lead for this guy. We've got a really good shot at him. He's clearly, based on reporting at least, looking around and seeing what's out there, whether it's financial, whether it's opportunity and playing time. I would think at MSU there's good opportunity for that role, and so there would be value there. I think it's one of those things where you can't just do. It's tricky because you can't just do one at a time. You lose out on guys. You have to have, and maybe that's sometimes you wind up getting the person you wanted second because they're ready to commit. That. And the other person isn't, and you can't lose both. And it's an interesting deal. I do think they've got multiple irons in the fire a little bit, but Darius Adams, from what I knew earlier this week, was somebody they had a lot of attention on. But again, like I'm saying, like that one day to the next, something could change. I could be telling you this, and what they're thinking is completely different now than maybe earlier.
MZA next, is the guy you had originally mentioned as a potential combo guard target still available, or do you know of any other options if Adams is not available?
I think there are a couple different options out there, but I do. The guy that I was thinking of is still available as far as I know. At least I hadn't I haven't checked today. I should be honest. I don't know if anything happened, but yes. And there are a couple other guys out there. I don't want to put names out there that because if you put a name out there, it sounds like they're interested. And then there are a couple other guys that I think might be decent fits that I don't know if they have any interest in. Right. So and again, I don't know how quickly something's turning there, but yeah, from the original guy that I sort of hinted at that I thought they were interested in and in contention for, as far as I know, at least as of yesterday, was still available.
The urinal or portal.
Ken Chu, if Darius Adams were to come to MSU, would he stay more than 1 year?
Depends on how the year went. And, and what I don't know. There's no way to answer that, but he's a young guy.
If he goes to a Final Four, I mean, is he going to sit there and want to come,
Yeah, I mean, he has a Jace Richardson here. That's everything you'd want if you're MSU. Like, if you look at next year's team and you could get another freshman to have that sort of impact, you'd happily say, great, go enjoy the NBA. Most freshmen aren't quite that ready, even when they're, top 30 picks. Jace is kind of a unicorn in that sense. So,
should we even care anymore about guys coming back? Like, even think about it.
Well, I think, I think you want to. Like, I think Caleb Glenn, for example, the first transfer they landed out of Florida Atlantic, I think one of the things they like about him is he's got 2 years of eligibility left, and they think he's got a lot more upside. If you look at his jump from his first year at Louisville to his second year at Florida Atlantic, that makes him intriguing. What's left to build on that? And he's got 2 years, and he's already been to 2 schools. I think a guy like that, now you could say, well, that guy is more likely to jump around again. But sometimes those guys are looking for a place, and they're getting, later in their career. And the reasons, you remember that Louisville year, that Louisville team where he was a freshman was an absolute mess. I mean, that was one of the worst teams you'll ever see. Fired the coach, all that stuff. So it was it's understandable that he didn't want it out of that situation. And then you go to a good mid-major program, really good mid-major program, high mid-major program, and you have success, and now you want to go back to that other level. And so when you just look at it from that perspective, you don't see why a guy would want to leave. But I think having multiple years of eligibility, depending on the position, so it can impact how you recruit, how guys think they're being recruited over. Like if you're somebody like Kurt Tang, and we're talking about Trey Fort, it's real easy to sell to Kurt Tang, hey, this guy's got 1 year left. Don't panic here. You bring in Darius Adams, you can say to Trey Fort, this guy might be one and done, but he might not be. What does that mean? This is where it gets tricky, and you've seen this at USC. I think this happens a lot of places where guys come in, and the other guys find out how much somebody's making, or the opportunity seems different, and they leave, and that's what's tricky. Now, the advantage MSU has now is the transfer portal's closed. So if you're not in the portal, you're not going anywhere for right now, and that's why you can, you don't have to worry about as much of that stuff. You can let it play out.
DMB next. The MSU football program has no juice, like none, and everyone knows it. What can Coach Smith and Alan Haller do to fix that? Hope transfers aren't going to cut it. And from Scotty Green's El Camino, how concerned should we be that we signed a portal edge rusher from Hope College? Anything but very concerned, and you're high on pure options couch. What's next? A tight end from the American Truck Driving School? What the actual fuck?
So this is why you got to have reporting, and this is why reporting off Twitter is bad. I was in a conversation with Chris Solari today, who's done some actual reporting. And
Graham.
And so I would look for that story coming up, as soon, either today or tomorrow. And this kid from Hope, who went to Rockford, from what I understand, and Solari's done the story. I don't want to take everything he's found out, but this kid was in trade school for a year, only played like a year of high school football, then wound up getting went to Hope because that coach had been somebody he had a relationship with who was interested in him when he was in high school and just dominated. So it wasn't, it's kind of a late,
Kenny Willick is 2.0.
Kind of a late bloomer. And the other thing is, from what I understand, he's not a scholarship kid.
Even though Willikis was a walk-on. But
yeah. Right. But he's not on scholarship. So, I don't know. The problem is sometimes when you get on Twitter and somebody commits and then there's a story just based on that, you don't get the full picture. When you ask what's the actual fuck, well, I would say you've got a really intriguing upside guy who played very little football and dominated the level he is and is coming in free of charge. That sounds okay. That sounds pretty good, And So in other
But
words,
do you understand where he's coming? I know that you're a little angry at it.
No,
but
no,
it's
I'm
like,
not,
dude, when you see a kid from Hope College, you're just not as excited.
100%.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, what I'm saying is the reaction to Hope, like, you got to dig a little deeper. And reporters got to dig deeper. And you know, I mean, frankly, there's so much stuff in the transfer portal now that digging deeper, not just taking what's happening, especially in football where it just feels like everything.
I just love how angry you were, though.
I'm not angry.
I was actually around Chris Solari this morning, an actual journalist.
No, DMB, I'm not angry. I'm not angry. That's and same with Scotty Green's El Camino.
DMB, be better.
Yeah, no, it's
Scotty Green, be better.
It's not that at all. Two, the question about the football program having no juice.
Yeah.
I mean, to what Haller and what Jonathan Smith and Alan Haller can do to fix that, what they can do is win. I mean, nothing's going to get better until the games get better on the field. It just is what it is, and the off seasons are long, and people have time to stew in mediocrity and fear and whatever. And I get it. But the bottom line is, if they look decent next year, and they look improved, and the program feels like it's going someplace, and there is some juice coming out of the season, then you'll have juice, and the whole thing's fixed. And then you don't feel like you do. That's how you have to win. You can't do. I mean, yes, you can have a June like Mel Tucker had, a few years ago, where you've got athletes posing in thrones
that
in
was
front
juice.
of Lamborghinis. That was juice.
Fun juice. I got to say,
it was great juice. It led to pretty much jack shit, but it was great juice. And so again, if you were it would be, if you're Michigan State, you want to be landing big transfers, you want to be landing big freshmen, you want to be retaining top players, you want all that. But to create the juice for players, you're gonna have to win some too. And the hope is that you've hired a coach who knows how to do that, knows how to build something, and that it happens. But there's really nothing that was ever going to happen between that Rutgers loss and August was going to create a ton of juice. And think about
Jonathan Smith in a Ferrari. I mean, that's juice.
Is that juice?
Yeah,
okay.
that's a lot of juice.
So I don't know what you do
with a mock turtleneck on.
I think you just try to keep looking competent and head down and working, and you hope.
Yeah, but that's boring.
Well,
it's no juice.
No juice.
Come on, man.
You just hope like. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you create juice from last season before next.
Fast cars, fun shit. I don't know. The voice of Gorham softball, Keyshawn Blackstock, has been referenced 3 times over the last 4 shows. Is that more recognition than he ever got on the field at MSU?
Yeah, I mean, the guy never really played, so yes, 100%.
Great name though.
And the weird thing is, from what I understand, the money he was making at MSU, which was good money, is like pales in comparison to what guys make now. Like, that's how quickly this whole NIL thing has moved too. Like the money of 2 years ago is just is.
How do we know? We don't know numbers. You say that, but what are we saying?
Yeah, I mean, guys, the guys who you wouldn't think it sometimes are pulling 7 figures now. And now the difference now, and I think MSU has done a decent job of this, is the guys who are doing well and the guys that are being rewarded. And there's some stuff I've even heard in the football program where, they bring in this transfer at this rate, guy performs well, similar position, and they've got to reward that guy, and it's happened. So that stuff is, they've been able to do that, and but the money is just different than it was back then.
Professor, if you won the auction for the 2025 Spartan heads from the surplus store, what would you do with them?
Are these like heads of? I don't know what this is.
They'd go in the Midnight Tavern. I mean,
yeah. Unless
they're made out of stone. Which ones are we talking about?
Yeah.
Put them out on the deck.
Yeah, we'd put them here on the. Maybe we put them here on the couch. Michael Patrick Shields would like throw them away or something during his interview with Kwame Kilpatrick from today.
That was a couple days ago.
That was a couple days ago. I come in today, and Jason is just riveted by this Michael Patrick Shields, Kwame Kilpatrick interview.
I got to say, it's the most MPS I've ever listened to because Kwame Kilpatrick, I'm like, okay, I got to see where this interview's going, right? And it's an absolute stunner. I got to say, I give all the credit in the world. I would listen to that interview. Forget this podcast. Go listen to that right now. It's fascinating, beyond belief. Sinners Dog 97. Since MSU fans are constantly told that our online activity harms the perception of the program, maybe staff members shouldn't be singing the praises of a guy who left after unsuccessfully asking for a raise.
Yeah, I mean, this is delicate. I get the perception. I get that's annoying. And they're coming at it from a different perspective. They have a different relationship from that guy, and they could reach out to them privately, obviously. The flip side of that is if people look like, hey, you're not being completely shit on when you leave, maybe that's a good thing for the program. But I understand the annoyingness of feeling scolded and then watching what you can't stand most about the portal be sort of thrown in your face. I mean, I understand. It's just not, and I think tact is something that everybody who's in a administrative role, coaching role, player has to understand right now. How fans feel is not irrelevant to this, because fans pay for all of this, essentially. Fans are the reason. I mean, we're here in late April, the day after the NFL draft.
Talking Kwame Kilpatrick.
Talking a lot of MSU football and basketball, and because people are passionate and they care. And that passion is everything. And so I understand people do need to be a little more mindful of that.
I mean, he asked him if he was going to run for mayor again in 2032. He's like, "You looking forward to?" I was like, I didn't know if MPS was doing a bit and playing into Kwame. Anyway, sorry. I'm just fascinated about that. Can we just start playing it now and just like dissect it and hit pause? Corey Ostrom next. Aren't the real portal winners the teams that retained their current talent and have a sense of chemistry, and team that remade rosters do not? Jeff Goodman glorifying those teams that remake their rosters with his portal winners and losers list is the wrong narrative.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I do think there is when there's an analysis of basketball rosters now, way too much of it is based on the new what's been brought into the roster, not the overall roster next year. That's Goodman. All these guys fall into that. Everybody falls into that. Now, some of these rosters look pretty legit, but you don't know how it's going to come together, and you don't know what it's going to be. And I think the thing that you would ask all of those guys and anybody who's evaluating a roster is just take every roster. And if you take Michigan State's roster and you say, instead of them retaining these guys, they added Cohen Carr, they added Jackson Kohler, they added Jeremy Fears, along with the guys they brought in. They added this guy, the shooting guard that wanted a chance named Kurt Tang, who seems interesting. They added all these pieces. What would we be saying about that class, right? And they'd be like, oh, my God, this is really intriguing. And it is an intriguing year. People just and I think MSU basketball fans are more aware. They're just, with MSU, there is an obvious hole right now, or what appears to be an obvious hole. And there are a couple of them. And so they want to see what's going to happen there, because I think MSU fans understand that this is a basketball team that has a chance to be something really special again if the right pieces are added to it.
Corey Ostrom, why have hardwood floors if you're just going to put rugs down on it? It's just smarter and safer to ask you gentlemen this question rather than my wife.
Well, if you're going to ask this question of your wife, or any question that you don't feel like you might be received well, do it with a box of Groovy Donuts, all right? And this week, another Groovy Donut design contest winner is in the display case, the German chocolate cake by Laura Belzile.
That's right. That sounds good.
Yeah, we'll go with that. But German chocolate cake, and if you've seen this on social media, I tweeted it out from the show account. It looks absolutely incredible. I think I will
donuts. I'll be swinging by this week for.
I'd eat one on a rug. I'd eat a rug around that. I'd eat a rug to get to that donut.
And if you've got a graduation ceremony, you've got any sort of gathering going on, Groovy Donuts will enhance it. It will bring joy to it. If you are showing up at a party, whether you're hosting or just adding to it, if you bring Groovy Donuts and it's something, or everybody's bringing something to share or whatever, you will be remembered for that. People will appreciate you being there, even if you're an annoying prick. And so I'm telling you right now, Groovy Donuts can fix your personality. They can bring joy to other people and joy to yourself. Go to groovydonuts.com to place your order today. Swing by either location on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday.
And now we have, out in Ovid, we have hardwood floors, so we have rugs. I enjoy a good rug. I don't mind it.
Well,
if the wife likes the rug, I kind of get into the rug.
We have both.
I couldn't. I don't know if we had all hardwood floors. I think it would just be kind of weird, but I don't know.
So we have hardwood floors everywhere. I love hardwood floors, but there are places where a rug makes things a little more cozy. In our living room, we have a rug. Yeah. We don't in the den. We had to put one down in the den because one of my treadmills was like leaking lube, and like the floor got so slick. Like I was like, boy, I couldn't even see it. But it was just, it's like permanently part of the floor now because we had
one of my treadmills is leaking lube.
The in-laws were coming over, and Elizabeth walked by, and she's like, these people in their 70s are going to fall hard, and there's going to be a hip broken
on your lube,
on the lube that's on these hardwood floors. So we had to put like some like little placement rugs down to. Yeah, it was anyway. But yeah,
so how many treadmills do you have then?
I have 3, one that works. I used to have one.
So what are the other 2 doing? Are they for parts? Or?
No, well, yes, I've used partly for parts, but I'm just waiting to junk them. We can't, like in our neighborhood, we have, we're one of those great neighborhoods where if you just put something on the front curb, it's gone in like 10 minutes. Like there are people who come by, drive by, and just put things, scrappers, whatever.
Yeah.
Or people just want something.
Except for a broken treadmill.
Well, the problem is right now, what's killing it is the sewer project. Like our streets are look like this giant construction zone. There's giant equipment everywhere. Like nobody's coming down our street right now. So I put them in the garage. You wait till the street's been done a little bit, and then I'll put them out there for people to grab. That is a story almost worth telling, but probably not worth telling, but told anyway. Presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company. If you're thinking about a date night this weekend, Midtown Brewing Company is a great place. I know Elizabeth and I are thinking about it. We're going out, and I don't know. Midtown is always at the top of our list. Great beer selection. Great place to watch a Tigers game. With the Tigers being good, Midtown's bar is one of my favorite places to chill and just watch a Tigers game, and it's very cool. And this Saturday, they've got from 7 to 10 p.m. John Beltran DJs at Midtown. Come grab a drink and just enjoy and relax, and right downtown at 402 South Washington Avenue, 7 to 10 on Saturday at Midtown Brewing Company.
Jay Riemenschneider, in hindsight, who's the worst hire, Juwan Howard or Mel Tucker? Both had so much promise after year 2, and both flamed out horribly.
I don't know, who's better and worse here?
See, Juwan punched your boy, thigh boy, Greg Gard. Mel
Greg
Tucker had sexual phone sex with a former, sex thing. Jesus, I got to go Tucker. I mean, come on.
Worse hire? Tucker? Yeah.
I mean, just the way that both flamed out horribly. I thought Juwan was a good hire at the time, and I thought
Mel was too. What's funny about it is I thought both guys were good hires, and neither one worked out. And sometimes that happens.
But before, I mean, what did Mel really? I mean, Juwan kind of was an NBA assistant coach, kind of grinded it out there. But Mel, I mean, what did he had? I mean, it was kind of in a pinch hire for Michigan State, paying that much, obviously for a guy from Colorado who hadn't.
But you had
much.
You had Saban's blessing, and Saban saying that you should look at this guy, which is a hard thing to ignore.
Yeah.
And the other thing that with Mel Tucker that was tricky is this. Keep in mind, Mel Tucker's hired before the NIL era, and I still think like the swagger. We talk about juice, the type of stuff he would have brought in a pre-NIL era, where you're trying to convince kids to come. I think that might have worked. The problem he had in that summer, where he brought all the Lambos out and everybody was at Spartan Stadium and all that, and getting all those commitments is, and even other guys out there is, guys were being recruited the old way and needed to be recruited the new way. It was just like a year too late for that stuff. But again, and with Juwan Howard, the right questions weren't asked in the interview. I mean, he had all these children that were going to be part of the program, that were coming up, that were getting old, at college age. And the question needed to be asked is, can you hold your own children accountable? Because he couldn't with one of them, and I still believe that is what destroyed his program. Now, when you watch Dusty May and you talk to people around the program now who were around then, there is a difference. Dusty May was a great hire, it appears, and I would rather have Dusty May 10 out of 10 times. But I think Juwan Howard had some juice, had some things working. They had some good runs. I think what happened was he couldn't hold his own first-round pick child accountable. Their team was worse when he was on the floor, and he still played them all the time.
Yeah, we don't have enough time for all of that.
Jay Riemenschneider, if you had to wager your not so hard-earned money, whatever your definition of success is, who would you bet will have more success in the next 4 years? Dusty May or Jonathan Smith? The coaches at both schools, secondary sport.
Well, I would bet Dusty May, just based on year one and what Michigan seems to be putting into it, and I think his competence and Michigan is willing to spend and the ability to the ability to roster construct. I've been impressed with him. Now, it's going to get very interesting a year from now at a place like Michigan, at a place like Michigan State. The money is going to be in football from the revenue sharing as long as that goes through. And we're a lot of it, almost all of it. And in basketball, you're looking at, and we've seen the numbers out there, and from what I understand, you're looking at like $3.5 million is rev share. Now, we'll see what outside NIL allows, but these schools are going to have to sign on to stuff too. So it's not even the Kentuckys and Indianas might have some limitations there, and Michigan, where football stirs the drink, so to speak. I'll be very curious, what financial advantages people are, what they're able to do in basketball. They're able to do this one final year. Maybe it'll be a ton. Maybe it'll still be the Wild West. Maybe nothing gets fixed. The reason I do think Dusty May has, he's a program builder. He had great success at Florida Atlantic, good success in year one at Michigan. I think he's really good. Jonathan Smith has shown he can build a program. Michigan State, though, is trying in a difficult time trying to, revamp and reignite its own program. And this is a tricky time. I think Nick Baumgartner talked about this the other day to do that. So we haven't seen Jonathan Smith do it in this era, in this type of era. So if you had to bet one way or another, you're going to go Dusty May, I think.
Matty B next. There is clearly a disconnect between the fan base and Haller on NIL. What do you think he can do to convince people we're all right? Or do we need to start being publicly honest that our bank isn't doing well? I will say it's odd he doesn't seem to want the average fan involved.
So here's the thing that you got to understand. I think the average fan will get more involved, mid-sized donors and all that, as we go to revenue sharing, because that becomes part of something they can pitch. It's in-house. It's part of what you're selling people on is, hey, you can make it part of, the points that you get for contributing to the university. I think the NIL world, as we go to revenue sharing, will be something more fans can easier get involved in, and they can promote. They have been hesitant to, obviously, as it's been a collective game, and that's still something like, I can tell you right now, Alan Haller spends a lot of time with the guys running the collectives, making sure they have enough money to get them to this rev share, and after that, we'll see. There is a disconnect between the fan base and Haller on NIL and between the school and NIL, and I don't think the school has done a great job. And I know people want people just want an understanding of what's happening at all times with that, and I understand that, and I think there could be better communication. I think the collectives have not been great at saying what they want. You just look at their social media presence; it's just not existent, right? So I just think that has not been great. And we'll see what happens with this next phase. I think it's a tricky time. I think the money has been there. Like, you'd be surprised how much some guys at MSU football are making. The money is there right now. They are paying to keep their look how many guys have actually left the program right now. They're not that many. Think about last year. I still wonder if if this was this year, does a guy like Derek Harmon stay? I think they're in a better place right now. I think the rev sharing is something that they're all in on now. The House settlement case isn't official, which is a really weird time to be in this business. But these guys all got the go-ahead from the Big Ten to operate this way. It's not just Haller. It's every Big Ten program is operating under the assumption that the rev sharing is going into place.
Matty B, I don't really get the Spartan Stadium hate, but is it really too much to ask to paint over the rust stains on the non-press box side?
Yeah, I've seen some angles that aren't great. It does seem like something you could do. I mean, I remember Barry Alvarez, the stories about him when he took over Wisconsin. They didn't have any money. They just painted everything up and lied to the kids about how good it looked. Like, paint can do a lot. Spartan Stadium does need some love. I think it's very high on the priority list right now. We've already seen some projects that are going to be underway, and I think they're trying to. It's an expensive, big time undertaking, but I think they're very aware that what they have right now has fallen behind a little bit in certain areas.
David Jackson, next. Is the Spartan Gateway District that important? The last time you entered the campus, western entrance, did you say to yourself, if only we'd spend $150 million on an Olympic sports arena, hotel and apartments, restaurants, and office space, things would be great. Instead, get it to NIL.
Well, NIL comes with zero return investment other than winning, or that player right now. So I guess that's return investment to a lot of people. But a district that creates an environment and creates a vibe, and an arena that creates sustainable programs has a hell of a lot more return investment. Now, again, NIL is going to wind up being a lot in-house. I mean, you're talking $20.5 million a year. You're probably talking 15 of that in football, 3.5 or so in basketball, whatever it is. And I do think the Olympic sports arena is needed. Jenison does not. If you and some people may not care about these sports, but what different people? Not everybody cares about what you care about. Football doesn't get to be everything. I mean, it has to support everything. Basketball doesn't get to be everything. Other things deserve some attention at some level. And this is an Olympic sports arena that I think, from my understanding, will financially make some sense based on the amount of money that they spend to have volleyball in Breslin and some of the stuff they have to pay there. And Jenison's just it's an old building. It's historic. A lot of people have great feelings about it. I remember my first MSU basketball games there when I was like 6, 7 years old. I can still smell the popcorn. I love walking in that building. I think there are cool things they could do maybe with, baseball and softball indoor stuff there, whatever. It's a huge space. It's not a place you want you've got a gymnastics program that's competing in the top 8 in the country now. That's not where they should be. You got a volleyball program that, I think could take off at some point, and if it does, it becomes a big thing. You want to have a place for them, and then wrestling gets that spot too. And wrestling can't compete if they don't have a place better than what they do now. So, the rest of it though, the idea of this Spartan Gateway District, I don't know. I don't know if it needs extra housing. I don't know if we need it as a community. I'm always, I'm a Lansing guy. I don't give 2 fucks, but yeah, so I don't know.
We're dropping MF.
I don't know if it's all needed or not, but it's apparently what they're going to do, and they see value and
brings juice.
It brings juice, I guess.
David, if Maverick Hansen has an NFL future on the offensive line, then why the hell couldn't our brilliant offensive line coaches see this and try him out on that side of the ball? Or was the O-line so full of pro prospects that there was no need to slot an NFL guard into the lineup?
Yeah, it's interesting that part of it's because Maverick Hansen isn't going to be a defensive. He looks like a good athlete. He's not going to be a defensive line guy. So maybe that was a mistake early on that he wasn't on that side of the ball. I think once you get to a certain point in your career and they needed him on the defensive line, and you're talking about just 1 year, like in the NFL, if you decide a guy's a project and you really like him as a potential offensive line, you can put him on a practice squad for a year. You can spend a year or two developing him into that if you want to take a good look at him. At MSU, they needed, he was a key guy there. But that's an interesting story that people are seeing him that way. I don't know if it'll work out. I don't know if it's necessarily something you want to blame his college coaches for, though.
Rich Searing, you mentioned we don't know Dylan Tatum's reasons for transferring, whether it's another degree opportunity, etc. Your opinions seem logical, except why wait until after spring ball to do that? If it's not about playing time or NIL, there's no reason to wait.
It's the academic calendar. I think he graduated right now. I mean, that's why you wait. I think he graduates like this month and or next month. So I think that's why you do it. And he's going as a grad transfer. He's somebody, if you do care about your academics and you're trying to go to grad school, you can't leave before your last semester. I could be wrong on this, but my understanding is this fits his academic calendar, which to some degree is supposed to be what this is all about.
Next one from Rich. What happened to athletes who enter the portal and are not picked up by another team? If their original school doesn't want them back and nobody else wants them, are they screwed?
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of guys who don't find a place. That happens. It does. That's the risk of it. And we don't hear those stories as much. And again, I don't think what exists now is best for student athletes. And it stinks that the biggest mistake that was made in all of this was the coinciding of NIL with the one-time transfer, which is now anytime transfer without sitting out. Because sitting out was not a punishment, number one. But number two, it's just the two of those things together. If the NCAA had not been so oppressive in its ways, and you could at least make money off your, who you were, your likeness, your marketing opportunities 20 years ago, and you still had to sit out. By the time anything like this came about where you could transfer as many times as you wanted, things would be a little more stable, a little more settled. We'd know what that was. And so this is the NCAA and everything getting its comeuppance for a system that was just stupid for a long time. We loved it. It made college sports, and athletes have to understand that. They have to understand that the system that was in place is what created all the interest now. But it shouldn't have been this way. But yeah, no, that happens to guys get left behind all the time.
Last one from Rich. When will we know about the details of revenue sharing?
Once the House settlement is approved, you'll start to hear it. I mean, just to give you a glance, if you're looking at like $20.5 million, the cap for the first year, you're looking at most places in the SEC and Big Ten putting minimum 15 of that into football. Now, I think I don't know what the number is, but there is a number that's a little lower than that. It's like a minimum the Big Ten requirement too, I think. And so you'll probably see 3.5, 4, 3 in basketball, and then bits and pieces here and there. But yeah, that's the gist of what's going to be there. But the details, I think you'll start to see once that's all approved, and that could happen within the next couple weeks.
John Johnson next. Is this the least quarterback needy the NFL as a whole has ever been? Seems like going into the draft, there were only a few teams that truly needed a quarterback. Is there any chance Shedeur doesn't get taken in day 2? I don't know. I think there's a lot of teams that still need a quarterback. I think it's just the quarterbacks they're just unsure of, right? I mean,
so at a certain point, and what is the point where a quarterback's no longer expected to be eventually a starter? Is it after the second round? Like, so at a certain, there's no way he doesn't go day 2, because you get a third-round quarterback, people aren't drafting starters anymore, right? So that would never, you'd never
starting their first year.
Or period. If you draft a third?
Brock Purdy. I mean, you can go down the list of guys after the first round, right? That are in starting jobs. Russell Wilson. I mean, is that what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, I
think people. Shedeur Sanders is not talented enough to be, to want to bring him into your organization and have to deal with Deion's shit already. I mean, look at last night. He's going through Twitter and going at Dan Orlovsky, because Dan Orlovsky's giving you what his issues are, his deficiencies are, right? It's not that you want to go out there and say Shedeur Sanders, blah, 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 like Mel Kiper. I mean, that was embarrassing. Mel Kiper's going on and on about Shedeur Sanders. We get it. He's number 1 on your list. Like, who fucking cares? Like, let it go. Teams are obviously sitting there going, like, I don't know if Shedeur Sanders is worth the squeeze. That's all.
What I meant is there are lots of 4th and 5th and 6th round picks who turn out. I mean, Tom Brady is the greatest example. There are 4th rounders, the Kirk Cousins of the world.
Like I said, careers. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant.
However, when those players are being drafted, they are not drafted to be starters. I'm saying at a certain point in the draft, when the risk you're taking for a player, you draft Charlie Batch in the 2nd round, you're expecting him eventually to be your guy. I'm wondering where that is. I think in the 4th round, you're not, for sure. And I think the 3rd round even, it allows you to draft a guy that's a developmental project. You're putting less draft capital into a player. And so there's no way he gets beyond the 3rd round. I would be very surprised. Because I think what happens is you have a night like that where all of a sudden he's now in the 2nd round, and he's at least an intriguing player. He may not be talented enough, but he's at least an intriguing player, and I bet there are some teams.
But if you're a head coach or a general manager, and let's say that you end up benching Shedeur Sanders, you're not going to hear it from Deion.
Well, that's the challenge. Some of that.
I mean, he had his number retired at Colorado, didn't really do anything, and that it didn't even go in the first round. It's just too much of a headache to deal with if you're an NFL franchise. I
mean, I get it. I would be surprised if some teams aren't reevaluating. Do we need a quarterback? I wouldn't be surprised if somebody trades up to get him early in the 2nd round.
I mean, obviously the talent's there. I mean, Colorado, the guy was running for his life, so it's hard to judge him from that experience. But I just think having your dad coach you your whole life is just, I don't know if that's really a good thing for you, even though your dad's a legend. Thomas next. Would NBA crowds be more exciting on the regular if arenas didn't pump so much random music clips in during games and let fans create their own noise like college hoops? The Pistons crowd sounded awesome last night, honestly.
Yeah, I hate the pump in, the pipe in.
But you don't have to do it during the playoffs. Regular season, you look at those crowds at LCA. There's not many people going to games, even though they turned it around after a 14-win season last year. But, I mean, the playoff atmosphere, people want to be there, and that's what they're there for. I think a lot of people just sit there. They either get free tickets during the regular season or it's their one game they go to a year, and sometimes you got to pump music in. I'm with you. I think it's insanely annoying, but, hey, I'm an old guy now.
And what they've realized, I think, at LCA is that they can just overcharge and people can, the people who go pay enough that not everybody they don't need to fill all the seats, and it's not.
They're not the only ones.
I don't love it.
Look at behind home plate at Comerica. Eric Larson next. Do you plan to sire any children soon? Lord Gramanito.
You never know. Could happen. So, maybe this question's for you too. Would you? Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
Fuck out of here. There's no chance. Sorry, we had that surgically removed. Mr. Benjen, why don't we all talk much about MSU players and the pros? We love them so much, and then nothing. It's a joy to watch Day and Jaren Jackson Jr.
I mean, I think people do. They've just been around. They're not new to the pros, but people people have good feelings about those guys, and they were. Yeah,
Is it always a joy to watch Draymond, though?
Sometimes. I like the way he sees the game.
Well, of course, he's a smart basketball player. He wouldn't have gotten this far if he wasn't. We get that. I'm just talking about on the court antics and different things.
Yeah,
no, it's just like, all right.
I do think with him, there are times where he blows up, and you're like, just keep your head, man. It's annoying as hell. But as a basketball player, they're fun. Yeah, I think part of it is though, when people leave, this is the whole deal with college sports. And I've known this for years as somebody who's paid attention to how many people read stories. People read recruiting, they do not read the draft, right? When somebody's done, you've used them. And it's not you don't like them and care, but you care less. Now, sometimes there are beloved guys that you'll follow forever. But those guys are a lot less. Whereas there's
the where are they now kind of stuff you guys did.
People like that. If you're a beloved, and we'll do more of that. Yeah, no,
like Cody did that stuff when he was here. I really love the where are they now stuff.
Those are
honestly for anyone.
That's fair. It's just not. But recruiting stuff is always. That's why there are all these recruiting services. You don't have Comparoni writing about, hey, we're going to write about the guys who left 4 years ago, right? I mean, you attach 4 stars next to a guy, you got 50,000 MSU fans masturbating to it, and that's just what's always going to be. That's
Absolutely.
just. I mean, fucking everybody masturbates.
Yeah. Sire, or Mr. Benjen, Sire, ask Lord Couch. Bill Laimbeer famously worked on one thing per summer, such as free throw shooting, and was great at it. What is the number one thing each MSU basketball starter on next year's team needs to work on this summer?
Well, if you go down, let's say the starting lineup is, we don't know who else is coming in, but based on what is there right now. And I would say if you start with Carson Cooper, he's got to become a guy, and I know it would help if he had a move offensively, and that's it. But I think he's got to get as strong as he can, he's got to be a guy who can absolutely counter elite big men to some degree. Like that, they just need him to be that. He's a good defensive player, but he's got to get as strong as he absolutely can and become the best defensive center he can. For Jackson Kohler, the rebounding part is there. I don't know how much better he'll get defensively, but to me, it's the confidence and consistency offensively, hitting his shot from deep and in the paint. With Cohen Carr, everybody talks about his shot. He's going to work on that, and that would make, if he's consistent to some degree there and at least a threat, yes. But to me, it's still his ball handling and his ability to get to the basket, which he's a lot better at now. But if he becomes a guy who can put his head down and dribble around people and get there and be a finisher at the rim, that to me puts a different kind of pressure on people that I think they could really use it. I think the shot will come along to a certain degree. Jeremy Fears, it's the shot. He's got to be able to hit enough threes and hit enough floaters to just be a threat, and then the offense will be his. And Trey Ford, I don't know if he'll be the starter. Let's say it's Kurt Tang though, but Kurt Tang just needs to become a guy who's a confident shooter, defender. Needs to become the guy he wasn't ready to quite be last year. It would have been interesting to see if they weren't quite as deep and he had to play, what that would have looked like. But I think they really like him, and so to me, it's strength, it's confidence, it's looking like you belong out there.
He's a bull in a china closet.
T-Bone's dad next. What is your confidence level in the quality of the guard MSU will ultimately get in the portal? With a 10 being Jace coming back and a 1 being a booger-picking bench warmer from a GLIAC school. No disrespect meant to the GLIAC or booger pickers.
As a former booger picker, no offense to
everybody picks boogers. Do you eat them?
That's the line. Come on. Right. Because you remember those kids in elementary, everybody got caught picking their nose in elementary school. It was the kid who where the booger stretched out and then they popped it in their mouth. That was
what?
You didn't have those kids in your elementary?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, those were the kids.
I didn't. Yeah.
That just took a lot of shit, and you were like, "That's just a bridge too far, man. We can't be doing that."
They tell you how salty the boogers are.
Oh my god!
Like, what? No, I guess I got to try. They're salty.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yes.
There's a paste eating kid and there's booger kid. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's.
But if you pick a booger, I mean, everybody does that. It feels great when you're in the comfort of your own home or in your car. You got tinted windows. You just got to feel like a booger up there. I mean, it feels great.
Yeah. Confidence level in the quality guard MSU will get. I think as I mentioned earlier, I have a lot of confidence in the effort they're trying to make. I don't know. This is sort of a new territory in terms of MSU needing a headliner, I think, and trying to go out and get it. And I don't know what those kids want, and a lot of teams want them. I think MSU should be an attractive spot. I think financially they'll be competitive there, and there's an opportunity to play on a really good team. So, I don't really. I would say my confidence meter is somewhere above, like, if you had like a percentage 0 to 100, it's probably in the 55 to 60 range.
So how would that 0 to 10? Like, what's that? Is that 6?
Is that what he asked? 0 to 10? What did I say? Did he ask 0 to 10?
I mean, you can put it in any kind of number format if you like.
10. I would say 5.5.
If you mean 100, 0 of 100? What about a 0 to 1,000? I put it at 600.
Anyway, all right, Fart Soup, are the Tigers going to win the World Series?
Buenos tardes. It is time for the Detroit Tigers gambling update with Gramanito Couch and Jason Nick.
It feels like they're going to be in the playoffs if this keeps going. Like, you look at their pitching
Baez in center field making Willie Mays level catches.
But it's more just the 1 through 5, their pitching staff, their starting staff, and then their bullpen. I mean, it's just every night they're in it because of those guys, and their bats have been good enough. And so again, when you get to the World Series, you talk about the World Series. I don't. That's a lot of luck, and you would say no. But I would. At this point, based on their run differential and who they have on their roster, I would bet them to win the division. And I don't know what those odds are right now, but I took them early. Good. But yeah,
I think before the season they were plus
260 or something like that.
No, that was 230 something.
Maybe it was 230. But the Guardians are right there, but look at the run differential, and that's a good sign.
Because they got rid of Naylor. Naylor was scary, man. I don't know why they got rid of him. Fart Soup, if Couch had to punch Izzo in the face to save the Rube from imminent danger, would he do it?
100%. Without flinching, without question.
Jesus.
Cockburn.
It's an honor, but I need to know the scenario. Like, why would Izzo be in the middle of me? Like, you would have to punch his face to get me out of some danger. What kind of crazy movie is like?
Maybe he was coming at you.
Yeah, but let him come at me. I mean, what a great way to go. I mean, if Izzo's taking me out, I mean, there's probably a good reason for it.
Well, I would need that written down.
Let him do it.
And I would need that written down that you wanted me to do that.
I mean, I greatly appreciate you doing this, but I mean, if we're going to go from a scenario where Izzo's coming at me for it, he probably has a good reason. So let him just do it. I'm 46. I've had a good life. I mean, it's good enough.
What do you think could be the reason? What would be the reason? If Izzo were to come, what are the most likely reason that if Izzo were to come after you, like wanting to punch you?
I said something about Kurtang on Twitter. Yeah.
It'd be pretty bad, though, for him to want.
I understand, but I mean, what else?
Or maybe, you exposed Izzo for being on Twitter, and he was angry.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I have Izzo's Twitter, his burner account. Fart Soup, do we think people like Dominic, Hans, and the Upper Deck Jerk Guy are real or sophisticated, deranged, and slightly perverted AI? Well, Dominic's a human being for sure.
100%.
I've met Dominic.
Good tennis player.
And Hans and Upper Deck Jerk Guy, I could see that.
Yeah, I think they're real. But much like Fart Soup, I mean, I've had drinks with Fart Soup, and so I know he's real.
Hey, you made him and his wife sit here for 50 minutes when he came in the studio.
That's fair.
Like, man, I came here to meet Couch. I'm like, oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah, that's fair.
Graham lives 5 minutes away.
If you're going to be down here, by the way, if you're going to be 50 minutes late to anything, show up with Groovy Donuts. It's another way to improve your day and improve how people think. They will forget your tardiness if you show up with a dozen Groovy Donuts. You can go to Groovy.
Or just do what Couch does and apologize profusely and stare at the ground.
Or do that, stare at their thighs, whatever it might be. But short of that, better solution, go to groovydonuts.com or swing by either location, Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing and also in Williamston. Just some great batch. I mean, it's such a good vibe. You never leave Groovy Donuts regretting it. Trust me, never. It's just you leave there happy. It's one of the best ways to improve your weekend, improve any day, and improve any event you're going to.
Steve Whittico, year 5 of Brad Holmes drafting for the Lions. As Nick said Wednesday, he's been the best drafter since day one. Why are so many complaining about the Ty Leak pick? Because you have to complain when you've been spending the past couple weeks listening to 97.1 and all of these all of these different scenarios. Who are the Lions going to draft? And it is, like, no offense, it was a great pick. I absolutely need a D tackle. Big, giant, fat guy to clog up the middle with McNeil. I mean, yeah, that's fantastic. But in the moment, you wait it was 11:45 at night. I'm like, exhausted from this stupid draft and everything preached to you during this fucking thing. And then you sit there and you see and you go, it has nothing against Holmes, right? I think it's a great pick. But
if you find yourself at this point, and I understand that Brad Holmes, there are misses, there are hits, but if you find yourself with the amount of winning that's happened in productive roster building and good decisions that have been made, having angst around a Detroit Lions pick, you do need pure options. Like it should, I'm not saying mandatory, but it just make it part of your time. Like go to pureoptions.com, download the app. It's right at your fingertips. Find out where you need to go and sit down and have a couple edibles, maybe 20 mg tops to start out. Well, let's start out maybe 10 mg to figure out what's best for you. And then and enjoy the draft. Enjoy the fact that the Lions are drafting late, and enjoy the fact that they don't have to land the difference maker or the quarterback or the player to give them a chance to make the playoffs. That for the next couple of years, at minimum, they are going to be one of the best teams in football because of the man, in part, who is making these draft picks. Pure options can help you do all of that.
But you can also rationally criticize if there's some players that you want around that pick. Like the linebacker from Alabama, Campbell. Like I was sitting there going like, oh, man, it would be nice to have that dude. So, I mean, you can sit there and have a conversation about it, but can you be rational about it? You see a team like Philadelphia, they go out, and this is not draft related, but free agency-wise, going out and grabbing certain guys. And Brad Holmes, they kind of love their own guys. So I can understand, some frustration with Holmes if you want to. But, yeah, you got to be a rational person.
And you hear people like talking like Will Johnson of Michigan. And some of that, one of the things you don't want to do, like if you're, you can't let fans of college teams be the draft deciders because, first of all,
he's a hell of a player, though. 6'2", 220.
I'm not saying he's not.
I was just talking with Michigan fan Jordan about it this morning. Like, man, he must be hurt because this guy was projected as a top pick last year. So
yeah, I mean, there's something there that people are nervous about. But I remember when I was a teenager and Cedric Irvin was picked by the Lions in the fourth round, and I was like, what are they going to do with Barry Sanders now? Like I didn't have any common sense. You're just like, that guy was really good. It wasn't quite that bad, but you know what I mean? Like you're excited about a guy who brought joy to you in a certain way, but maybe you aren't actually able to evaluate him as an NFL player. Will Johnson may be a little different because obviously he was supposed to be really good.
But to say there's a lot of Michigan guys that were going in the first round there, so it's easier to get hyped on them. Steve, any chance you can break down the latest from the NCAA case? I've read articles, but I could use the audio format.
Well, I mean, there's a lot, and you could go back. But the biggest thing that's in play right now is the judge who is going to decide and approve the House settlement is basically upset with the roster limits being in place and being so strict, and some of all these players getting cut who are like part of programs, and she warned the NCAA on this. And so now they're being asked, they have, I think, 2 weeks to figure this out and to come up with a plan that phases this in, basically. And so I don't know if they're going to have to bring players back. Some guys are in the transfer portal. All this is stupid that it's moving, in real time. It's not like this is something they're moving to in 2 years. They're like in the process of doing it, and yet it's not approved. It's craziness. But the biggest thing right now is the roster limits that were part of this settlement that are somewhat arbitrary. Why are being harsh right now? People losing their opportunities. The NCAA, I think, was a little dishonest, their attorneys, about how many people would actually be cut and lose their opportunities, and that's going to have to be phased in over time. It cannot be current college athletes losing their opportunities who signed up to play someplace. That is the big thing they've got to figure out, and that's the thing to watch. And as long as that happens, I think you will see the House case approved in the next couple of weeks.
Peasy, have you ever seen a more egregious foul than Brunson's eye gouge on Tim Hardaway?
I've seen worse.
Yeah.
I mean,
can you really do an eye gouge on purpose? I mean, that's pretty sadistic. Like,
my big problem is I just know that's where germs are transferred. Like, if you gouge my eyes, I'm going to punch your throat. Like, and you deserve it.
You won't be able to see me.
But
I'll
just swing. Everything's deserved. If you touch somebody's eyes, you should never touch another person's face. Unless you're like making love to them or something. But otherwise, do not touch another person's face.
Well, if you want to fight me, slap my glasses off my face. It's on.
Because you won't be able to see.
Yeah. Tom Izzo did that. If he wants to go.
Yeah.
No, I'm just serious. It's been, ever since I was a kid getting picked on and stuff. I wore glasses since I was like 4 years old. For some reason, I get some like Hulk level rage if someone. It's only happened like a handful of times in my life, but it's always led to some stuff.
What's the bloodiest fight you've ever been in?
The bloodiest fight I've ever been in. Jesus. Oh, yeah. There was, I think I've told this story. When I was at the bar, I was on a date, pre-Treese, by the way, and she was extremely intoxicated, and I just wanted to make sure she was, like, getting into an Uber. Anyway, wait, that wasn't the story. Shit.
Okay.
Sorry, that wasn't that was when I got tossed on my ass into the street of Michigan when those big bouncer dudes threw me out. Oh, no, never mind. I can't remember the story.
No, we need to give it a go.
I can't remember the details of the story.
Okay.
I got them confused. I conflated two stories. Sorry. No, but there was a lot of blood when I was lying underneath a car when those bouncer guys did toss me.
Well, tell me about the bouncer guys. People don't remember that.
I thought I told this story. Okay, all right. So I was with a girl on a date, and she was absolutely shit hammered. And the bar over there, the tin can, they're connected, right?
Yep.
And you can go
downtown Lansing, Michigan Avenue.
You can go to two bars in once. I forget what the other name of the bar was. We were on the one side. She was gone. Went to the other side of the bar. You had to pay like $5 to get into that side of the bar. So I went over looking. Obviously, I was shit hammered on Jägermeister, so I was already primed and ready to go. And this one bouncer guy, of course, he was the smaller out of the three. He's like, man, I need $5. And I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm just looking for a chick. Obviously, it gets all, with loud music and everything. So he goes to put his hand like on my arm, and I just smacked it out of the way. No matter than 10 seconds later, I am picked up by two dudes. I think that they hired Michigan State football players back then. By the way, this is like 10, 12, 13 years ago.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, I just went for a ride. I was outside, and they took me and threw me like into this vehicle, and I just landed underneath it in just a fucking heap. And I was like, whoa, what the hell is going on? And I was just bleeding like from my face, And I got up and I like was trying to talk to the manager. I was like all pissed off, and I was sitting there just bleeding from my face, and like the whole people were waiting in line. There was like a whole line.
Are they just watching it?
Oh yeah. I mean, what are they supposed to do? It's just a big fathead getting tossed on his ass. I mean, so yeah. Then I just walked down the street and got out of there and went back home and cleaned myself up. But yeah, anyway. So I got two stories conflated going, and
it happens.
Yeah.
They're both stories we're telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. By the way, a great place for an American stout. And if you're ever looking just to like post up, have a beer, and chat with a friend, there's just no better place than Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing.
It's definitely rock bottom. It was one of those days.
Yeah.
Peasy.
And then, by the way, they do not have that sort of bouncers. They will not throw you on your ass at Midtown Brewing Company.
They should, though. Guys acting like the way I was. I mean, I'm not mad at anybody for that. Acting like an asshole. You get tossed on your ass. I mean, it is what it is. Peasy Rube, when you said you wanted to give a shout out to a late legend the other day, I thought you were about to eulogize Pope Francis.
Who are you giving a shout out to?
Mike Patrick.
Oh, Mike Patrick.
Yeah. The legend. Rest in peace.
Yeah, so it's the day the Pope dies.
Well, I'm not Catholic. I mean, yeah. Of course, Pope Francis, legend.
Shout out.
Sure. Liberal Pope. I dig that. David Jackson, MSU women's basketball hired a new assistant who Brian Calloway tells us is very good. So what happened to Marwan Miller, the outgoing coach? Retired, dumped MSU for a higher paying job, kicked to the curb because the team found someone better? What happened?
It's a great question. I don't know. I read that story, too. That it does beg that question. At some point, there has to be actual reporting on that. And so I can't tell you. I'm also not going to criticize a colleague for what was probably a quick post in the middle of a busy day.
But Los, you critique Los. It's okay.
Yeah, but Los,
and then have dinner with him.
Los and Callaway are different. Callaway is like a
respected
grinder, man. That guy works. I mean, he's covering like 50 high schools in our area and doing a zillion things. And yeah, I mean, he makes us tick.
Do you ever tell him that Los makes more money than he does?
Oh,
while he's grinding.
Yeah, he probably knows. And that's not why. Hey, Brian, while you're out there covering this water polo meet, Los is pontificating in his basement and making W.
Do you know Carlos stayed at the Four Seasons when we traveled last time? BPA, is it possible the constant Pistons trash talking and chippiness can be a bit unhelpful? You can't talk shit and give up 3 layups to end the game in crunch time. Game 3 was tough with talking, but physically the softest game they played in months. I love the chippiness.
I do. My issue with the game, I felt like in a more mature Pistons team would be able to handle this. It became too much of an event. It's Ben Wallace. It's everybody. It's the final countdown in the intro. It's the first home game after win.
Yeah?
It was like a Super Bowl. And
that's juice, baby. What do you mean?
It's juice, but they didn't play with the edge they played with in New York. Defensively, they weren't as good. And I knew they were in trouble when at one point Tim Hardaway Jr. is 5 for 5 from 3, and they're up like 2 points. I'm like, that's not good. And I like some of the stuff that the Knicks were doing defensively on them. And I just had this bad. I nearly bet the live line against him. I just didn't want to do it because I wanted to enjoy the Pistons the rest of the way. But I really thought the Knicks were going to
with the injuries, with no Ivy, no Isaiah Stewart. It's like, come on, man. You see Tobias Harris out there.
But the
majority of the game, you're like, how is this team even competing?
When you look at these two teams, there's no excuse for. I give the Knicks credit. I thought they played a good game, but the Pistons should not be down 2-1. They shouldn't be up 2-1.
BPA, what's up with Cade Cunningham? He takes off way too many possessions and doesn't even touch the ball sometimes. Alpha dog superstars can't do that.
Well, you see it with Ant Edwards, and it happens with guys like he's, especially when you have Dennis Schroeder is a guy who gives some secondary ball handling, so he doesn't have to be all on Cade. That's intentional. Now you want Cade Cunningham, the offense going through him as much as possible. I didn't notice that. Like I think Cade's had a really, really good series. Well, he had a great game too, especially.
How about the end of the game? That was so bizarre because I had it muted because I had the sound on the draft, and I'm like, what is going on at the end of this game? So I had to flip it back over to and I'm like, I'm so confused. The time clock operator got something screwed up. I'm like, and then Duran threw one of the worst passes ever, and then Cade Cunningham staring at me because he's staring at the camera going like, get me out of here.
It was not great.
He was just disgusted with that pass from Duran.
I am very curious to see their reaction in Game 4. It's obviously a must-win. You go down 3-1 in a series like this, you're not going to win it. Yeah. You're at home. You didn't play that well in Game 3. I'm very curious to see the response.
Yeah. Original Dark, Mantonio. Graham, did you make the filing deadline to run for office in Lansing? Is running for office truly one of your aspirations?
I've tickled the idea of someday running for mayor, but I don't know if I will or not. It would be 2029 if I were to do it or later.
And Kwame could run.
Because here's the thing. I would have to give up my job. I'd have to give up there's a lot I'd have to give up. And there's a lot of other stuff going on in life that I'm just not, but
you've already taken like a beating. You're good at taking beatings. I feel like that would be good. That would be helpful in going into,
I'm not saying I would be the worst person in that role ever, but I'm just saying that, like, it's a huge life change and huge risk, and you got to like
ass.
Yeah, I mean, it's
why would you want to do it?
I did not make.
Talk about Lansing Promise fucking all day long.
Oh, that does sound fun.
Original Dark. Do you know if any other schools do anything like Moneyball?
I don't know if there are. I mean, there are other pro-ams in cities, but I don't know how many are so tied to a school's team the way Moneyball is with Michigan State. So that's a good question. There are certainly other college players playing in pro-ams, and especially in the big cities. That's always been a thing. But some guys have come home. Chicago's pro-am, Seattle has a good pro-am, LA has a pro-am. Like all these places have pro-ams. There aren't pro-ams usually in places like Lansing, and there aren't ones that are successful. And MSU is the key to that success. And I've written about this a little bit, and like Desmond Ferguson understood that going in. Like, to make this work, the MSU guys had to commit. You could have some. If you go back to the early days of the Moneyball Pro-Am, there was more talent than there is now because there were just more overseas pros from the Lansing area at that time and more guys coming back. So, the team that won the Moneyball every year was usually not just because they had MSU players. The MSU players were less relevant to that. It was the overseas pros and things. Now they would have MSU guys on their team, but it didn't matter as much which ones. But yeah, I don't know if any other school has anything like it.
Couch thinks I suck next. Any tips for red-eye flights? Flying to Ireland in a couple weeks. Never flown that far. Nor ever on a red-eye. How does one sleep in, Coach?
I don't sleep well.
Cure the pure options read.
Yeah. If you can,
and a Xanax, probably.
Yeah, if you can start your day a little stoned with some pure option in your system. Great. Drug yourself is my advice. The other thing is on the back end. Like my wife sleeps pretty well on planes. She puts, they'll give you.
But she's not gross. Like I'm worried about with my mouth open and drooling.
Do you usually sleep well sitting up or that's the real question. And what I would do is also earplugs, and like they'll give you a face mask if you want it, because those things they'll darken the plane for most of the time. But earplugs and a face mask to let yourself truly not be disturbed, because it's not the deepest sleep you're ever going to get. The other thing is on the back end. When you go to Ireland, if you can not need to do anything that first day, that first day can be fun if you're not thinking, oh, we got to get this tourism thing in. I got to go on the Guinness, tour today. I got to go see this castle, whatever it is. If you can get in and have kind of a punch-drunk day, the other thing I would say is you get in usually at like 10 a.m. overseas. Go take a nap. Doesn't have to be the longest nap, but if you can get into your hotel early and get like 2.5, 3 hours, you'll enjoy that night, and then you sort of put you on their schedule. That would be my best advice.
Sparty Barb next. Do you know if Izzo will take this year's team to Europe this summer? It seemed to help last year's team get to know each other. In the age of the transfer portal and continuous roster turnover, building team chemistry quickly should be a priority.
I do know that part of what they're trying to do, I don't think they're going to Europe this summer. I don't think it's something you do every year. And it used to be something that you did once every 4 or 5 years. Now, maybe in the transfer portal era, maybe with trying to create experiences for players, they'll do it more often. I mean, Izzo will tell you the Maui Invitational, going to Spain, like all that stuff, doing really cool stuff, taking them to Tigers games during that run or Tigers playoff games, all that stuff is part of trying to create an experience beyond just, like everybody's trying to, lure these guys with money, opportunity. But you want to create an experience where, especially the guys who are already there, they think, boy, I enjoy being here. Like, this is fun. And it's one more thing to think about if you're thinking about getting in the transfer portal. This is a place that I get to do a lot of cool shit.
Kurt Wisniewski, can you say with a straight face Ben Johnson's first draft was a success?
We took Loveland, right, the tight end. Was there another pick for the Bears in the first round? No. Then
so it's tough. I mean, first round,
it's hard to know.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
6'5" tight end. It's not terrible.
Yeah,
right.
Loveland's a good player. I don't know if they're the thing is we just never know. We don't know right away if he winds up being one of
draft
those
grade F. Like,
yeah. I mean, first round tight ends not always, but you're trying to give a young quarterback weapons, and tight ends are good ways to help those guys succeed.
Kurt Wisniewski, did Brad cook filet or miso soup with choosing an Ohio State defensive tackle?
We don't know. Colton Pouncey, though, and maybe we'll have him on at some point because Colton really likes his pick, and he had talked about it before. Like he and Nick Baumgartner have a podcast it was like in early April. This is one of the guys that Colton was really high on that thought this would be a good pick. So there's some people who thought it was good. I don't know. It seems like a defensive tackle who will be part of the mix, and you can argue you can never have too many of those guys.
And he came from a pro pretty much team.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Kurt Wisniewski, will Shedeur Sanders drop to a day 3 pick?
I don't think so. Out of the third round, that would.
Can I get odds? I'd like to get odds.
It just feels like if it gets beyond the third round, then there's something else there. Because
I think there is. I think teams just are passing on the guy. Like, even a second-round talent, do you still want to deal with all of the,
I do. Look, you need quarterbacks in this league. And, there are enough teams that have questions at that position. And the other thing is, once you get to the third round, the pressure for that guy to start is so low. Like, even if you're the Lions, take him in the third round. Because, like, think about the Lions. You have, again, it'll be late third-round pick. And he's not going to be there. I'm just saying, if they get to the late third round and he's there, why it makes sense for the Lions? Because they already have their guy. It's not like you're worried about Dion or anything else. Like Jared Goff is the guy.
Well, you are worried about the whole scenario because Shedeur's not going to come in and go. He's going to be like, "Why am I not starting?"
Yeah, but Dan Campbell's the coach who can handle this shit. Like
Dan Campbell can handle a lot, but do you want to? Is it like I said? Is it worth the squeeze? Are you getting out of it something that you can look towards the future and go, okay, this is gonna. I'll put up with it because it's gonna benefit us soon. But I don't know if
unless you got Dion tweeting when Jared Goff struggles, hey, maybe they should make a change. You don't need that shit. Yeah.
I mean, the guy had a whole set built for him. It says legendary everywhere. I mean, I don't. Whatever. Couch on fire. Best Tiger story so far. 1, Torque, or 2, Mize, or 3, Baez actually making contact with the baseball most of the time.
I think Torque and Mize are one story together because these were 2 first-round picks who would sort of look like they weren't going to make it, and it really preaches to. I don't know about you, Jason. Like I will be more careful, and we don't know where these guys' career is going to go, and they could get hurt or Torque could fade or whatever. But it does speak to the idea that in baseball, man, sometimes you just do really have to be very, very patient. And
no,
no,
you don't. Listen, there's a lot of injuries. I mean, Mize sat out for almost 2.5 seasons. I don't have to sit there and kiss his, like, be nice about it.
I don't think you have
it
to
just
kiss their
sucks.
ass.
Like Torque, absolutely. Torque would show glimpses of 2 years ago, 31 home runs. We're like, oh, absolutely. And then last year, it's like, all right. I mean, like, I understand, but to be patient, like Javi Baez, oh, absolutely. Let's just be so ecstatic about him actually making contact. Actually, because he's being more patient at the plate and listening to people, it seems like. I'm happy for him, but what took so long? Why were you this way for these years that we've had you is all?
And you're making a crap load of money to just, to do what's asked of you. You ought to do what's asked of you. Be a professional. I credit him for being a professional, but you ought to be a professional. You shouldn't get a cookie for that. The Torque and Mize to me is those one story though, because it's 2 first-round picks who have. But
Javi playing center field and being the guy that's now he wants to be a part of the team. Whatever I can do to help. Yeah. All right. Okay. Couch on Fire. How sweet would it have been? How sweet would have been a sophomore MSU Jaren Jackson season?
Well, they probably would have won a national title because that team, then what would have been his sophomore year, went to the Final Four without him. Like you put Tillman and Jaren Jackson and Cassius Winston and that crew, and what he would, because what Michigan State got out of Jaren Jackson, he was good. He was the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, but he was still an offensive work in progress. He was a developmental player. They would have got much more production out. He would have been a star. He would have been an All-American, and with all sorts of length and ability. And who in the NIL era, I mean, they might have been able to make that happen because he kind of wanted to stay. And back then, you couldn't risk that sort of thing. But Jaren Jackson sophomore year would have been one of those guys that at MSU would have been worth like a $3 million contract. You make that happen.
Jake, next, I recently got engaged. Our wedding date is a palindrome. Is this a blessing or a curse?
Anything that helps you remember it is a blessing.
Hell yeah, Jake! Congrats, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Palindrome. What's that?
It's like my sister's name's a palindrome because it's HANNAH. It's the same forward and backwards. Same with like the name Mom or just the word Mom. MOM is a palindrome. Like anything that's the same forward and backwards is a palindrome. So
all right. So when is his wedding date? Is there?
We want to guess all the palindrome dates.
Jake, which former Lions coordinator has the most success with their current team, Johnson or Glenn? Well, I hope it's Glenn. Fuck the Bears.
That's a good point.
Really, dude. Fuck the Bears.
Just
the way Glenn came in and handled the Aaron Rodgers situation, I think that alone should make people happy, the way he just told Rodgers to get the fuck out.
Well, that's the other thing, is it's easier still to root for Glenn because the Jets are so not in the Lions' sphere, right? They're an AFC team away, and so
they're the Jets.
Johnson went to a rival who you're naturally going to start to not like. But Glenn is one of these guys that if Glenn has great success with the Jets, it doesn't really threaten the Lions, and it would be nice to see.
Jake, if you can only keep one Detroit coach until they retire, which is it? Hinch or Dan Campbell?
Well, you would say Campbell, but they're both really
it's DC.
Good. Yeah,
it's not even close.
Yeah, and part of it is if you were to lose Hinch and you could get Chris Fetter if he was ready to be in that role, and the pitching coach moves up, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, Hinch is phenomenal. But Dan Campbell is the Tigers have been good before. The Tigers have had good managers before. The Lions have never done this.
The fact that Dan Campbell can do those pre- and post-game speeches 20 times a year, holy shit. I mean, come on. C-Dubs91, what are your thoughts on travel sports as it relates to preparing kids for college sports? I personally feel like you either have it or you don't. And it doesn't matter how early or even if you start, but you are more knowledgeable and see more of that world than I do.
So I'm a little torn on this because I do believe in playing multiple sports. I don't believe and kids should not be thrust into something that they aren't passionate about. They should be introduced to everything and let them go. Now, if a kid really just loves one sport, wants to do their sport, wants to travel, and I don't think there's any issue with that. The thing that doesn't exist anymore is I still think you develop some of the best stuff like playing on the street, playing pickup, playing in every sport. Like that stuff that doesn't exist with friends and just kids are inside more, it really, I think, hurts people. I mean, look, in certain sports, it makes a big difference, though. It really does. I mean, I can tell you is somebody who played like a pretty decent level. My highest level sport was tennis. But I was a seasonal kid. After every high school tennis season, I was ready to take a month off and play Gus Macker basketball tournaments. But the guys who were better than me just kept playing tennis tournaments, kept traveling, kept going wherever. I think it,
what could have been?
I think what level athlete you are is the biggest thing, but skill development in some of those places do make a difference. I also think there's value in learning to compete, playing lots of different sports, learning to lead, being in different situations. I don't think you always have to be up on the best team against the it's and some of this stuff's so ridiculously expensive and prohibitive that yeah.
C-Dubs 91 is Sharon Moore a good coach? How can you have this many high round draft picks and barely go 7-5?
We didn't have a quarterback. I mean, Michigan State in 2012 had a lot. I mean, they just lost a bunch of draft picks, but had an unbelievable defense and went 6-6. They didn't have a quarterback. Michigan State in 2016 went 3-9 and would have gone 6-6 if they had a quarter. Like, there are lots of teams you just don't have a quarterback, and you got to have a quarterback. If you don't, you can have everything else. It's just not going to work.
C-Dubs, if you could only listen to one announcer for the rest of your life, dead or alive, who would you choose for each of the major sports, college included, if there is time?
Is there somebody who's your...
I got to say, it was great listening to Kevin Harlan do the Pistons game. I love Kevin Harlan.
Yeah, he's up there.
Living legend. Baseball, definitely Johnny Miller, Joe Morgan. I love those guys. Ernie Harwell for the radio side. NBA... God, Dick Stockton was awesome back in the day.
I love Dick Stockton.
Dick Stockton. With Pat O'Brien on the sidelines. What a man.
The
NFL, it'd definitely be Mike Patrick and Joe Theismann, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Madden and Summerall, I guess. But I still would go with Mike Patrick.
I think Buck and Aikman are as good as they get, though. I think they're really good. I think they're really
better
good.
of all time?
I think they're as good as anybody. Yeah,
no.
I really enjoy them.
Fucking Aikman, dude.
I mean, I enjoy it. Like
Aikman just says whatever.
I mean, give me Keith Jackson like college football, like the way that felt when I was like 9 years old, and like there's a big ABC 3:30 game, and Keith Jackson came out. I'd be like, oh my, yeah, that was big.
College basketball. I mean, Jim Nance, Billy Packer.
I hated Billy Packer. Just fuck Billy Packer. Fuck.
All right, Lions reply guy regarding Will Johnson. Wouldn't it be cool if GMs colluded to not draft guys that quit on their teams to make an example out of it? I don't know if it will quit, if Will Johnson quit or was hurt, but it would be great if they tried to limit that from happening in the future by making an example out of it.
No, making an example out of somebody who might be hurt, like that's not cool. This is somebody's future.
You hurt, bro? Are you going to dump him out of his wheelchair?
No.
To test him? I mean, like...
You don't want guys colluding. And NFL teams are going to take... NFL teams are very much about themselves, and they're about the player they think is best for them. If somebody thinks Shedeur Sanders is going to help them win and keep their jobs and all that stuff, somebody's going to draft him. And same with Will Johnson. It's just that's not going to happen.
Lions reply guy. I'm not a fan of Shedeur and all that he brings, but his playing style is similar to Goff. Not overwhelming arm talent, but throws on time and accurately. Is there any chance we would take him if he fell to us in the second as a backup for 1 to 2 years? And would you be okay with that pick?
And Brad, you trust?
No, I wouldn't be. No, in the second round?
It's too high.
Yeah.
It's too high.
I think that we have other needs.
Correct.
Yeah.
Again, once you get to the third round, if you're talking like the last few picks of the third round, it starts to get a little
But you're telling me Shedeur is going to come in if he's not in a scenario where he's going to start anytime. He's going to sit there for 2 years and be a guy that crushes tape and listens, and I don't know.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Jebediah, does MSU have the most unserious football program in the Power 4? Staff fan policing everything, gassing up players who left for greener pastures. Stadium game day experience is rotten anal glands level of dog ass. No NIL direction. The list goes on. Fire Alan Haller.
Matt C's burner, I think.
Oh, my God. The fact that Matt C would need a burner, I think you just...
Very much not the case. I mean, look, what Michigan State is not at the peak of where they've been, but you're talking about a program that within the last decade was in the playoff, right? And is struggling right now because the coach who took them to that playoff stayed too long, and they've struggled with the transition, and it's a difficult time to, to try to steer it the other direction. I think there is NIL direction. I think they know what they want to do. The question is, will it work? But I think there is direction. Is it something? Do they communicate it well enough? Maybe not. Is there enough transparency across the board? You could argue not. I think the stadium, while I understand some people, the stadium stuff's interesting because 2 years ago I didn't hear shit about the stadium experience, And all of a sudden, people are really piling on that. They do have, and look, there are places that are better stadium experiences. I've heard from people who are MSU fans who work at other universities who will tell you it is way better other places in the Big Ten, that they do a better job. And so that's something they need to work on. They need to get Groovy Donuts at Spartan Stadium. That's where you start. You start with Groovy Donuts at Spartan Stadium. If you can work Pure Options, in great. But Groovy Donuts at Spartan Stadium is the beginning. But you also, like, they are working on, there is a plan for renovations. There is a plan for the idea of some larger project and major renovation things. So those things are in the works. It's not like they're not aware of it. I think it's a very serious football program. I think I don't know what unserious. I do know what you mean by that, but this isn't something they're not trying to do. They're trying to be successful. Their expectations is to be in the top third of the Big Ten all the time. To have, like, when you get to a 14 or 16 team playoff, and you start having 8 and 4 teams in there from these power conferences, that becomes the standard. You want to be a team that can get 8 and 4, 9 and 3 that's in there, that's part of the dance all the time. And you can have some years better than that, but you want that to be where you're at every November. Every November, second week in November, you're still playing for something. That's what you want the program to be. I don't know if it can ever get back to what it was. D'Antonio was a different Big Ten. It was a different era. Maybe something like that happens. In some ways, that was helpful because it showed the level Michigan State can get to. It showed what it can be, and the landscape's changed a little bit. But in other ways, it created an expectation that's going to be very, very hard to meet. And I think the expectation should be that you're playing relevant football every November. November, like 15th, there's a home game. You're excited about it. It's for something. That's what you want to expect out of your football program, and I think they expect that out of themselves.
Matt C. next. Jason, how often do you black out during the show when Graham starts ranting about the state of the world and Lansing Promise? I wish I knew Couch when he was throwing dudes down the stairs in his Kangol hat.
Yeah, those are different eras.
He's a tough guy.
Yeah, those are different eras. But yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't black out anymore, thankfully. But yeah, I definitely I have zoned hard to where actually one time where I went back thinking about some childhood thing, and when I snapped out, I was like, holy shit. I was so shocked that I went that deep in my thought because Couch went on like a 14-minute filibuster about something, and I was just like, oh, that was kind of just scared me,
Were you worried that you had forgotten to be back part of the show? And I was like,
no, not at all, because you've done it before when you're like, what do you think? And I was just like, I don't know. I just zoned out. So I'm not afraid to tell you that. I just was really surprised because I always try to keep, everything balanced, and I just went really deep down this like rabbit hole of me in 5th grade. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry. Matt C., is there anyone more pretentious on Twitter than Darian Harris? Seriously, your program has been garbage for a decade. You are literally in charge of player engagement, and our top players have left the last few years. Log off social media and stop lecturing fans.
Yeah, I mean, I think Darian is trying to get out in front of something. It never looks great. And look, I've talked to Darian about this stuff a lot, and Darian's a really smart guy who cares so much about MSU and trying to make this a place that is successful for fans. But I understand, like, as somebody who has been accused, including by the person who commented on Matt C's comment here, of being a pretentious lecturer of people occasionally. It doesn't always come across perfectly, and
people don't like to be told what to do
or what to think.
Yeah. A different Matt Z. So that pesky CMU thing. We ever going to hear about it from the NCAA?
Yeah, at some point. It's an investigation, right?
Welcome
at some
to the
point.
Blue wall.
Yeah, I don't know where it is, but yeah.
Next question.
Yeah. At some point,
plead the 5th.
There will be something. Yeah.
Eventually, there will be something.
Look, what do you want me to do? I mean, I'm not well sourced in the NCAA. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen.
Eventually, something will happen. Jake Hawkins. I recently read about MSU football on 24/7 Sports by Stephen Brooks. He likes the guys we got for the offensive line out of the transfer portal, but says our worst group is the defensive line. What say you?
I mean, I actually like some of the players in the offensive line. I just don't trust that it's a good group because I haven't seen it in a while. Like there are some promising guys. Like Stanton Ramil, I think is a terrific young player coming off an injury, but I think he is fantastic. I think they brought in a couple guys who I'm intrigued by. I think it could be a good group, but I have to see it before I like. But you're right in this, and Steven's a smart guy, and he thinks about football too much, even when it's basketball season and other things. But he's right in this sense. Like if I just had to judge on which group based on their personnel I thought would be stronger, I would say the offensive line. I just, again, it's hard to trust.
Next one from the Hawk. A few months ago, former Cowboys coach Jason Garrett said on the Dan Patrick Show that in 2016 NFL Draft, they were high on Connor Cook and wanted to take him. If Cook would have become a Dallas Cowboy, do you think he would have had a better NFL career, and would he still be playing today?
Like so much of the NFL for quarterbacks is opportunity and development and being in the right situation. I just don't know with Cook.
That would have been fascinating.
It would have been interesting because he would have gotten the opportunity and there would have been expectations. But Dak Prescott did a lot as a rookie, and you remember Connor Cook in that playoff. I don't know. There's a chance it would have been a different career, and then he might still be playing as a. The thing I've always said about Cook as a backup is that personality-wise, he doesn't fit what they want in the backups today. They want a guy who people like being. They don't want a bro. Tom Brady doesn't want to be in the room. He's got one other backup quarterback now. He doesn't want a bro, and so it's why you see a guy like Hoyer
hardcore of a bro, though. I mean, there's bros. You can be a bro.
And if he had more time in the NFL, it's possible he would have grown out of that, and been a good backup and a good play. There were some skills he had that I thought would give him a chance, and I was surprised that it ended as quickly as it did because I thought his ability to make plays in the pocket and not worry about people at his feet was rare. It was a gift. Was he the most accurate guy always? No. But he did things that, like Kirk Cousins has always struggled with that, right? And that was what Cook was great at. And the other side of it he was never good enough. And then the problem is sometimes you get that one opportunity in a playoff game that's just that bad so early, it's hard to recover from. And I think if that hadn't happened, it would have been interesting too.
Next one from the Hawk. Which of these NBA superstars do you think would match with the Pistons, and what should they try to trade for in the offseason? Devin Booker or Zion Williamson?
Both are, they're very different in the sense that Zion Williamson is somebody's going to want, and if he ever figures it out and stays healthy, it's like, oh my gosh. So, yeah.
Zion was a big deal because he was a huge guy, and I just broke my chair.
You just can't give up too much for him. Devin Booker, though, and some people think there's too much overlap with Cade. I don't know that I agree with that. I kind of would like, we were talking with James the other day, what are you willing to give up? If you gave up Duren and Ivy, which I don't think is too much in a pick, would they be willing to do it? Well, you want to do that for Booker? You need a second superstar. You need a guy. He's in his prime. You got the next 4 or 5 years at this level of play next to Cade. I would be intrigued by that.
I like Duren. Jake, do you think that you'll ever make an appearance on Press Pass All-Stars ever again?
So I'll tell you this. What I've realized about Ebling and asking me to come on Press Pass, and for a long time, by the way, Ebling didn't stop asking me because he was uninterested. We were doing the show on Sunday nights, and so he was recording that show while we were doing this show, and so I couldn't do it. And so if you say no enough times because people stop asking. Now he asks me, and I can always tell. He can ask me when he's desperate. He always asks me when Ebling needs somebody on a Sunday night and it's like last minute or it's a holiday weekend. I always get the holiday ask. He's like, hey, you want to come on? I'm like, nah, I'm somewhere else on a holiday. I'm freaking naked on a beach.
I'm not your last resort now?
I'm Ebling's last resort for Press Pass All-Stars, I've realized. I just, based on the weekends he chooses me to ask and how somebody else is clearly bailed.
Who's below couch?
Nobody.
No?
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody.
Fucking how long are we going to do this show, Jack? Last one from the Hawk. Even though they lost by a deuce Thursday night, it's crazy to me when the Pistons won Sunday. It was the first playoff win since 2008. Individually, what was Couch and the Rube up to or doing in 2008?
Take us behind the curtain with the Rube in 2008.
I was 29.
Oh, that was the year of. Like the sports book and the wasn't that the year
it was
of the
around
settlement?
2008. Well, no, September 27th, 2000. What year was that? That was the car accident when everything was in turmoil.
Yeah,
I was working at Jimmy John's back then. It was great times, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
absolutely. I was living in East Lansing. I was kind of like subletting. I was working at Jimmy John's. Life was kind of carefree.
I was in great shape. I was in my athletic prime. I was 28, living in Kalamazoo. Things were good. I would go back. I mean, I wouldn't take my wife, of course, but I would go back otherwise and do that.
Take my wife, please.
We appreciate all of you producing our show for us. You don't know how much that means to us. Actually, you probably do because we'd be absolutely screwed without you. We appreciate Groovy Donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com or swing by either location, Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. Make Groovy Donuts part of your weekend. Your weekend just gets better instantly. I'm telling you right now. We appreciate Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. If you're thinking about betting the soccer game, you know how I feel about Newcastle against Ipswich. Download the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app today. You can lose money along with me. I've never felt this confident, and that's a problem. We appreciate Pure Options, naturally. Go to pureoptions.com. Download the app. Make Pure Options part of your weekend. It'll improve it. Thanks to Midtown Brewing Company as well. We'll be back Monday. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Room.